Welcome to the Multiverse of Comic Book Podcasts. This is the Campus Comics Cast, the official podcast for Muddy Monster Comics. My name is Scott Reed, and I am joined on this episode by
Mike Atchison
and Shad Schubert.
And on this episode, we're going to, speaking of multiverse, we're going to talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And then, not too terribly far back in the recent history, we, of course, had San Diego Comic-Con. So we talked briefly about some of our highlights from that event. But now we're going to take a little bit deeper dive into some of the news. And then, of course, we're going to wrap up the episode with another CLZ Shake. So, again, Muddy Monster Comics is located at 1422 Walnut Street in Murfreesboro, Illinois. And there you can find all of your cryptid needs, as well as back issues of comics and lots of other fun stuff. So if you haven't been to the shop in a while, well, now is the time to go and check things out. So do you want to add anything before we just dive into Doctor Strange?
Let's dive.
All right. So now, as is the case, I'm going to go through the Doctor Strange review courtesy of IMDb. So this is not my writing, so you can take or leave what you want from how this is worded. It's not me, it's IMDb, right? So I've got some nitpicks of some things, how I would have written it differently, but I'm just going to leave it as is. And then I'll stop every couple of paragraphs and we'll talk about the pieces that we've covered at that point. So here we go. In the Gap Junction, the space between universes, America Chavez and Defender Strange race to the Book of Ashanti while attempting to evade a ribboned creature. Strange's attempts to contain the monster prove futile, leading him to attempt to steal Chavez's power of multiversal travel, while knowing that the process would kill her. However, the demon kills Strange during the process, and Chavez, in fear, inadvertently opens a portal to Earth 616, which she and Strange's corpse fall through. Dr. Strange wakes up, believing this vision to be a nightmare, and continues about his day. He dresses up to attend Christine Palmer's wedding. There, he reminisces about the time they previously spent together, but Palmer insists that the relationship would have failed regardless. During the celebration, an invisible entity begins to terrorize the streets of New York. Strange is forced to respond and reveals the entity as Gargantos, a gigantic tentacled monster. Also present is Chavez, whom Strange recognizes from his nightmare and rescues her. Wong arrives on the scene from Carmitage, and together they kill Gargantos by gouging its eye out. Strange and Wong question Chavez, and she explains that the demons were hunting her for her powers. As proof of her claims, she takes them to the alternate Strange's corpse to prove that Strange's nightmare was actually a peek into his counterpart across the multiverse. So how did you like the opening of Doctor Strange? Any comments on the opening?
I really liked the opening. I think it was, the big fight with Gargantos was really well done. I wasn't even aware of that creature as a character that was, brought over from the comic book universe. But I was just looking here that he first appeared, or whatever it is, it first appeared in 1969 in Submariner number 13. And actually, it looks like he died in the same issue. But there might have been more, versions of the monster, but pretty cool visually. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the monster made some appearances in Doctor Strange's comics over time. So, and maybe what they said is probably that original monster wasn't the actual, Gargantos, some variation or offshoot or whatever of Gargantos. But I thought the intro was solid. It kind of pulls you in pretty quickly, and right away that you're getting those multiple versions of Doctor Strange. So they're kind of keeping that. They don't take long to get into the multiverse theme of the movie, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, and I really like America Chavez as a character. This was definitely her movie in a way that it's all revolves around her, and so I liked her introduction right out the gate. I like us being in a different universe and in a different multiverse right out the gate. Like, yeah, it doesn't waste any time with that.
Anything to add?
I was just going to say that one of my notes was that it was interesting that apparently in the MCU, the dreams or nightmares are the windows into other universes, whereas in DC, Shad, what is it?
The dreaming is a different world. It's
no.
Well, what is it?
Scott will know. The comic books. So yeah. So the whole the first version of multiverses back in the 60s. That was how like say Barry Allen from Earth 1 Flash, he knew about Jay Garrick Flash from Earth 2. Didn't know it was Earth 2, but he was just the Earth 2 Flash was just a character in comic books on Earth 1. So each Earth kind of could see that through comic books. But I thought I liked the nightmare or the dream part too, because that's just a neat way of thinking. Well, maybe there is some reality to the dreams that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I would have agreed with Shad that it's the dreaming, and it's all Morpheus. So
yeah, I haven't even. Yeah, we can't even get into that.
Maybe I was going to step in it because I was like Sandman rules. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Shad, on that one. So I do have recollections of that now that you brought that back up, Mike, about the whole the Earth 1, Earth 2 reading about the comics. So, yeah, in Marvel it differs because the comics are actually just stories. They license the characters like Fantastic Four license their rights to Marvel, and Marvel writes stories about them. So it's a little bit more, a little bit simpler, I guess. I don't know. So
right.
All right. Well, moving along with the plot here. Upon further inspection of the corpse, Strange discovers runes of witchcraft that he realizes were also present on the tentacled creature. Knowing that this isn't his area of expertise, he visits Wanda Maximoff at her farm to ask her about what she knows about the multiverse. But he soon discovers it to be a chaos magic conjuration created by Maximoff herself. With the dark code in her possession and becoming the Scarlet Witch, Maximoff reveals herself as the one who sent the demons after Chavez, believing that she could reunite with Billy and Tommy once she's able to take over the multiverse. She gives Strange before sundown to surrender Chavez at Carmitage, otherwise she'll be coming as the Scarlet Witch. While Chavez over at Carmitage, the masters of the mystic arts fortify the area with preparation for Maximoff's assault with a magic shield and various other defenses. However, Maximoff's telepathy targets one sorcerer and disables his magic, leading the shield to collapse, allowing her to shred through the resistance of Carmitage. Strange entraps her within the mirror dimension, which proves to be ineffective as she escapes using reflections. Cornered, Chavez accidentally opens a portal, allowing herself and Strange to flee across the multiverse. They land in Earth 838 in a futuristic New York City, where they walk towards the New York Sanctum in search of Strange's counterpart in this universe. But as that counterpart had died defeating Thanos previously, they are instead greeted by this universe's Sorcerer Supreme, Baron Mordo. Okay, so first thing is, I'll ask your opinions on this. How important do you think it was to somebody who saw this movie to have watched WandaVision?
Not
right. And that's kind of
except for Billy and Tommy. I think that but I think that's really the biggest kind of gap in there. But I felt as though since this was our first real like Disney Plus show into movie, that it gave us an idea of what this blend could look like and how they can kind of get you close to there and understanding what's up within like 30 seconds. Yeah. Kind of play like the quick catch up on it. And I thought it wasn't completely necessary, but was great if you did.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean there was some reference to things, when they're walking through when Strange and Wanda are walking through like the apple orchard or whatever, she's making references. Well, I thought you were coming here to arrest me or whatever. So I don't know. My memory's not great on the movie because it's been several weeks since I've seen it last, but there seems to be enough there that there's something happened for the audience to assume that she hasn't been completely on the side of good. Maybe she's made some mistakes, but it definitely was a benefit if you did watch WandaVision. So even though they wrote it well enough to not have cause you to have seen it, it definitely you're rewarded if you have.
My contention the whole time has been that nothing really significant is going to happen in the Disney series that cannot be quickly explained, like Shad said, in about 30 seconds in a movie. And I still, that it's making me think, well, maybe they are going to take a few more risks with some things, but they never even mentioned the Vision in this, in this movie at all. So I don't know. So and I guess if you know enough about comic book history without knowing, even having seen WandaVision, then you know that the Scarlet Witch had the kids. This is what led up to No More Mutants in Marvel. Whatever, her children were taken away from her because they were just basically products of her hex magic, just like it was in WandaVision. So I don't know. I'm still not convinced that there's going to be any major change. It's kind of like the Marvel events, when a big event happens, like, hell, I don't know, Kree, Skrull War last year. Nothing dramatic really changed. There's only been a handful of Marvel events that have really, really changed up the status quo. So I kind of didn't think,
it had the same amount of gap in the story that missing out on a somewhat connected movie would. Like, they mention it, they kind of give you enough overlap to where you can go, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's the Spider-Man in Civil War kind of, and then branching over into Homecoming. There's enough of a gap to where it would be great if you saw both of those movies, but either one you could continue that story without really even missing a beat. And that's, I guess that's part of what Marvel does really great with their movies, is that just like their comics should be, any movie or TV show could be your first movie or TV show. And they're nailing it they're sticking the landing for sure with this.
And speaking of change, Scott, as Stan Lee said, it's not change that they're aiming for, it's the illusion of change.
I was surprised that, especially after the first Doctor Strange movie, that Baron Mordo didn't have a more significant role as a villain in this one. We'll talk, we're here just now getting to Baron Mordo, especially the way that the first Doctor Strange movie was left. So I guess hopefully we'll see more of Baron Mordo in the future. I forgot to pull up the IMDb list to get the actor's name that plays Baron Mordo, but I really enjoy him, so I'm hoping that we'll get more Mordo in the future. And okay, so Wanda shows up at Carmontage, and this part of the movie for me has the Attack of the Clones problem from Star Wars. So in Attack of the Clones, right, you have this major ground offensive taking place, and you have the Jedi Knights flying around in craft and just basically pointing where all the clone troopers should go and be fighting, and the most powerful individuals aren't doing anything. So here you have, the Scarlet Witch attacking Carmartage, and all of the apprentices are the ones that are building the shields and holding up the shields, and Wong and Strange aren't doing anything at all but just standing there. That really bugged me in that scene, just because I've seen that plot failure. I'm going to call it a plot failure before. Did that bother either of you guys? Is it just me? It's probably just me.
I didn't pick up on it.
I didn't either. I don't know whether to be embarrassed or.
Well, I thought that Wong specifically was doing more of like protecting America at that time. I don't remember.
Well, like, if the shield is what's keeping Scarlet Witch out, then it would be better to reinforce the shield, because one acolyte loses his grip on reality, and now the entire thing comes down. And theoretically, Wong or Strange should have potentially been able to hold her off by themselves, being Sorcerer Supremes, and the two of them together definitely should have. So that scene just bothered me. I'm probably probably reading too much into that one, but
Okay, I looked up. Baron Mordo was played by Chiwetel
yeah,
Ejiofor.
yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
knew I would butcher his name, so
Well, he was in 12 Years a Slave.
Okay.
He had a prominent role in that.
yeah, I've seen him in a few things, and he is
Yeah.
generally excellent. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to Doctor Strange
Yep.
versus Baron Mordo, type of a movie. So that's something
Yeah.
that's on the radar, and if you would have asked me at the end of Doctor Strange, well, that's absolutely where the next Doctor Strange movie is going to be, and it didn't happen. So
Yeah. He's one of those actors that you may not know. He may not have been in many things that you've seen, but you remember him. You
Mhm.
remember the performance. So yeah, I was just looking at the list. There's not a lot of things he's been in that I've seen, but what I have seen, I'm like, oh, absolutely, I do remember it.
All right, so moving on here, Mordo invites them to sit down for tea, and the two warn him of the Scarlet Witch. They soon pass out as Mordo had poisoned the tea and awaken in a facility elsewhere where they meet that universe's Christine Palmer, who works there as a scientist to help with managing the multiverse. Strange is brought forth before the Illuminati for his trial, consisting of Mordo, Captain Peggy Carter, Blackagar Boltagon. They couldn't just say Black Bolt. I don't know. Captain Maria Rambo, Reed Richards, and Charles Xavier. They believe that Doctor Strange remains the greatest threat in the universe, revealing that their counterpart of Strange had used the Darkhold to look for alternate ways to defeat Thanos. He found the Book of Ashanti, which the Illuminati used to kill him on Titan. Oh, yeah, killed Thanos on Titan. But Strange confessed that he had caused an incursion, an event which reality is destroyed, and thus volunteered to be executed to prevent further destruction. Meanwhile, Maximoff deploys the Darkhold to dreamwalk into her Earth 838 counterpart in Westview to interact with her children. However, Sarah Wolf manages to destroy the Darkhold, and she burns her alive in retaliation. She also threatens to kill other sorcerers if Wong does not reveal another method to dreamwalk, leading him to reveal that the book was a copy. He takes her to a castle on Mount Wundagore, where the Darkhold was first transcribed. Maximoff uses the castle's power to dreamwalk back into her Earth 838 self and raid the Illuminati headquarters in search of Chavez. Before they could vote to execute Strange, Carter, Black Bolt, Rambo, and Richards leave to respond, but Maximoff easily kills them. Xavier enters Maximoff's mind and attempts to liberate her from the Scarlet Witch, but fails as she snaps his neck. Mordo votes to kill Strange himself, who tricks him into destroying his restraints before escaping. All right, so I do have a big issue with how they killed off Black Bolt. They had a chance to redeem Black Bolt in this from the Inhuman series, and this is an individual who knows he can't even whisper, right? So, as his mouth gets closed, and that is enough for him to panic. And scream in his own mouth and blows out his own brains. That just bothered me. I don't know. I'm sure I'm nitpicking, but yeah,
I haven't
easy to do.
I haven't seen the Inhumans, and but I did wonder about I knew that was his power, or that was something to do with his powers, and it did. I agree with you, even though I didn't see the actual movie.
It was a TV series.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the series. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a fan of the let's kill all of the Illuminati as soon as we meet them anyways. That was just a frustrating part overall for this movie.
Yeah, it just made it was really easy for them to do that because they were the 838 Illuminati, and
right.
They were tossaways, which I know kind of left you with a little bit of an emptiness, thinking, okay, you wanted to be connected to him or have some feelings for him, but and you did, but then they were gone, pretty disposable.
Yeah.
And Marvel keeps having this thing where it's like, and I don't know if it's Marvel, but I guess it's movies talking about, oh, Scarlet Witch is the most powerful individual in the Marvel Cinematic. No, Doctor Strange is the most powerful individual in the Marvel Cinematic. No, Captain Marvel is the most powerful individual in the Marvel Cinematic. And it's obviously, it's kind of like, well, who wins the fight between, Hulk and Ben Grimm, right?
Right.
Well, it's whoever's writing wants to win the fight at that time, But those discussions about the most powerful one in the Marvel universe are just kind of silly, and a lot of it is just to kind of up the power levels or the perceived power levels for the bad guy or the hero in a particular in a particular movie, and even like Thor and Love and Thunder, it's kind of like sometimes he's the most powerful whatever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So there's not really a whole lot of consistency there, and I felt like the power levels were kind of jumping around. It's like Captain Marvel, if she's the one who busts Thanos' ship. Now this is a different version of Captain Marvel, but if she's the one that busts through Thanos' ship in Endgame, well, she can't handle a statue falling on top of her to kill her off so quickly. I don't know. And it was weird that the last one standing was Captain Carter, who is the one that doesn't have any superpowers.
Yeah. Well, it's also you as much as I've heard about and all the anticipation for seeing John Krasinski playing Reed Richards, knowing now that this was an 838, another universe version, it's kind of like, well, I guess we're not going to see him in that role. So
it was definitely fan service to get him in the role initially. Now, who ends up playing him whenever the Fantastic Four movies actually start coming out? They could use him if they can find agreements on it, but they could also just go a completely different direction, because it doesn't have to be somebody who looks identical, So
he sure fits the image. I think
he fits the image, but I thought his acting was a little flat in this episode or in this movie. I felt like he could have done a little bit better. He just kind of was almost like he was just reading lines. Now, Reed Richards is not necessarily the most, engaging public speaker. He's more of a brainy guy than anything else. So, and maybe that's how they wanted him to play the character. Yeah. So that's hard to say, but it really felt like he was just reading lines to me. Let's see. Where am I at here? I lost my spot. No. Anything else before we move on? Of course, we can always, throw in some stuff here at the end. The Illuminati's efforts have also brought Palmer enough time to free Chavez, and the two escape into the sewers, where they rendezvous with Strange. Maximoff continues to pursue them into the Gap Junction, where Strange retrieves the Book of Ashanti. However, Maximoff destroys it, takes control of Chavez, and uses her to send Strange and Palmer into another universe. She takes Chavez back to Earth 616, abandoning her alternate self, who returns home to Westview. Maximoff then prepares a ritual to take her powers. Elsewhere, Strange and Palmer land in a universe that is being destroyed by an incursion and head towards its New York sanctum. There they find a sinister counterpart of him who had been corrupted by his copy of the Darkhold, possessing a third eye because of it. When questioned about the Darkhold, the sinister counterpart warns against using it, but Strange engages in a musical battle in order to retrieve the book, believing it to be the only way to stop Maximoff. The fight ends with Strange killing his evil counterpart, and Palmer reluctantly agrees to assist him as he dreamwalks into Defender Strange's corpse back on Earth 616. As he travels to Mount Wundagore, the spirits of the damned inhabiting the Darkhold attempt to attack Strange in both universes, but Palmer is able to protect Strange as he binds them into a cloak. He reunites with Wong, and they fight Maximoff, but are easily defeated. All right, so this is kind of like the last set of scenes up before we get to the big end here. What did you think of the musical battle?
I just don't see the musical notes as projectile weapons.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just weird. It was weird enough to make me stop in the middle of the show to make that note.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was just a weird thing to visualize. But then again, there's weirder things that's happened. I'm not saying it's bad, but it just didn't work for me.
It didn't. I liked the idea of it. I'm not sure if it made sense for it to be a Doctor Strange battle technique. Like that's something I would see from like a Scott Pilgrim movie. Would be like a perfect like comic book movie that they would fight with music notes. But
my notes say, literally my notes, no pun there, say, who does he think he is? The Fiddler? I mean, because the Fiddler is one of those villains that he just fiddles and it just attacks. The notes attack people. So
I think it probably has to do with like Danny Elfman's score is way better than this movie deserves to have. And so they're like, we're like, this score is really good. Let's make us focus on the music for a little bit.
And it's like, Strange would not have been comfortable with this type of magic it wouldn't be like, oh, this is the go-to thing that I can use to defeat this guy, right? It just really felt just out of place. I know a lot of people visually it was kind of neat to see,
Mhm.
but there's that term with comics, a willing suspension of disbelief, right?
Yeah.
And it definitely broke that disbelief.
It took you out of it just a little bit.
Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get to the last section so we can just kind of just go with our notes here. Despite their loss, Strange manages to inspire Chavez into refining her abilities against Maximoff, which results in her using her powers to send Maximoff back to Earth 838. There, she attacks her counterpart and attempts to comfort her kids, but they openly reject her. This causes Maximoff to collapse into tears, but her variant comforts her, breaking her out of the Darkhold's corruption. Realizing the destruction she has caused, Maximoff sacrifices herself to destroy the castle and every copy of the Darkhold within the multiverse as Wong and Chavez return to Carmitage. Before they both return to their home universes, Strange admits to Palmer that while he has always loved her, he was too insecure about committing to a real relationship. Carmitage begins to rebuild as Chavez starts her training in the mystical arts, while Strange returns to New York and repairs the watch his Palmer gifted to him. He takes a walk afterwards, only to collapse and cry out in pain as his third eye opens. Roll credits, mid-credit scene. Strange is approached by a sorceress who warns him that his actions have caused an incursion and they must put a stop to it. She opens a portal to the dark dimension and the two walk in. And then post-credits, we have Bruce Campbell announcing to anybody who's still in the theater that the movie is actually over. So, all right. First thing I have here is a person who wrote these notes, they don't say Clea. They just said a sorcerer. It's like,
that's odd.
Yeah, really.
We know,
especially since they knew the monster, the multi-universe monster at the beginning's name, but they won't say her name at the end.
Yeah, which I think because it's perfect, exact copy of her appearance in the comics. So it absolutely is. And I think it's been announced too that Charlize Theron was playing this character. So it's not really just a sorceress, right? It is Clea. And I'm actually glad that they have resolved the whole Christine Palmer, because this is, in my opinion, who Doctor Strange is supposed to be with, is Clea. So, you get those people who argue, like Peter Parker, is it Gwen or is it Mary Jane?
Okay.
It's like, so for me, the argument is won by Clea. So, okay, Sam Raimi as a director for this movie. Chad, what do you think?
Bad.
Okay.
We tried to make a horror movie with actors that may not be great at horror, but you're just going to be like, sorry, you guys are making a scary movie now that's for 8 to 13-year-olds, or we got to make it appropriate enough to like fit the younger audience, but also be quote unquote scary. But it's just going to turn out not being. It feels like it's losing its mark on what it actually needs to focus on. That's what Love and Thunder's problem was it lacked some singular focus, in my opinion. That was the big thing. And this also lacked its big focus. I mean, the story through was great, but visually it was just like, what are we supposed to be? I don't know what we're supposed to be.
Do you consider Sam Raimi's movies to be particularly scary?
No,
because I don't.
No,
it's just he's
but
known
he tries
for
to be scary.
His earlier stuff. Really, my
Yeah.
first exposure to him was the Spider-Man trilogy, or the Spider-Man movies.
Not Evil Dead?
I never watched that. I'm not a zombie guy. I could care less, which supports my stance that
Klaatu Barada Nikto?
No, that's why the Zombie Strange, I had to laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, and am I the only person that said, wow, they just stole the Dementors from Harry Potter films? All the flying ghosts, the black shadows.
As a person
and
who actually hasn't seen Harry Potter, I don't know that. So
right,
I would agree though. Yeah,
but it's hard to take that heartfelt exchange between zombie Stephen Strange in America at the end when he's looking like let me eat your brains, and I'm like, what the hell? I just can't get into that. And part of it's personal bias, I guess, but also I can't be the only one in the world that felt that way.
No,
it's almost like this was sort of an indulgence for Raimi, because he had gone some time since he had last directed a film. and at least that's what I read somewhere. So this almost was like, man, I'm going to get back to my roots, and I'm going to make Strange do a zombie Strange movie with some horror elements and stuff. And yeah.
There was definitely too much Sam Raimi in this movie for me. Yeah. He homaged himself way too many times, Yeah. But that being said, I went and saw this movie with a friend who was a pretty big Sam Raimi fan, and he just got a kick out of all the nods to other Sam Raimi films. I mean, even the whole idea of Bruce Campbell's hand attacking him, just like it was like a throwback to Evil Dead, So he just was totally into that. So there was just too much of, like Sam Raimi just patting himself on the back for stuff he had done in previous movies for my personal taste.
It's what you would call a vanity project.
Maybe, yeah.
Very expensive vanity project.
Yeah. Now, on the positive side, I thought America Chavez was, of the new generation of Avengers, I think she even surpasses Ms. Marvel. I forget the young actress's name that's playing her, but this Gomez young lady, I thought she did an outstanding job. I really liked her. She just was appealing. I didn't even know what her powers were in the comics, but I think it's in this day and age of multiversal, travel. I think it's a good one, and I thought she was really compelling.
She was fine in this movie. In my opinion, the character herself was more of a MacGuffin, where you have this thing of great power that everybody is out to get, and if the bad guys get the MacGuffin, then they win. If the good guys stop them from getting the MacGuffins, and the good guys win. So I really felt like her role in this was to be that MacGuffin. She was solid in that role, but it could have been.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The Book of Ashanti itself could have taken on the role of America Chavez in this movie.
Just a plot device. Yeah.
Yeah, just a plot.
Personified plot device.
Mm-hmm. But
I get that.
But she
made it appealing because I just it was good. I thought some of the filmmaking part was good, even though I'm not really a Raimi guy that really knows him, but some of the angles and some of it's still overall I wouldn't put this didn't blow my socks off, but I enjoyed it, and I need to watch it again so I can have some more thoughts on it. But it
is better on a second watch, I will tell you.
Is it? Okay.
Yes, I agree with that statement as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Here's my big nitpick in the Marvel comic.
You need to make your nitpick for movies and comics a feature of our podcast, because that is some of the best.
We don't have time for all my.
We can anticipate that there will be a Scott nitpick. It needs to have a little chapter heading, the Scott nitpick.
Little bar across the bottom of the screen.
And we can guess what your nitpick is going to be, and we can see.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can start a pool.
My nitpick? I think I've talked to Mike about it already. So
a lot happens. I don't know that I would remember. Oh wait, no, that was Thor. No, you'll have to tell me. I don't.
That whole movie was.
That whole movie was a giant nitpick.
It started. That's the problem.
Yeah, and it didn't end soon enough. Okay, so in the Marvel comic universe, the Darkhold is basically how all of the vampires, werewolf, anything occult gets into the Marvel universe. All right, now in the Marvel Cinematic, the Darkhold is destroyed. So we know we have things coming out like Blade. There's a Werewolf by Night like Halloween special. We assume we're going to get vampires at a minimum, if not Dracula. So we have to now come up with a new reason for those things to exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because the Darkhold, which allows those things to exist, is now gone in all universes across the multiverse. So they can't even bring it in for other multiverses. So now I'm speculating that what they're going to say is the destruction of the Darkhold is what ends up releasing those things moving forward. But again, that's going to be a change. So that's my one nitpick. And the other nitpick is when they're traveling through all the multiverses and they go into a paint world. That was one of the dumbest scenes I've seen in a movie in a long time. I would expect to have seen that in Thor: Love and Thunder at some point. I've only got one more comment, and it's like now these last two movies, all of a sudden we're bringing in sidekicks. We got Love for Thor, and now we really kind of have America Chavez for Doctor Strange because she's training to be a sorcerer now. So I don't know what Marvel's infatuation is all of a sudden with having sidekicks for their.
Are they building up to Young Avengers or the Champions or something like that?
Well, they always could say that, but I don't know that we'll see we'll definitely see America Chavez again because she's in. We've already heard that she's going to be in something else.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know that we'll see Love from Love and Thunder in anything else moving forward. But yeah, just too much sidekick stuff. So, all right, Mike, you got any last thoughts?
No, I think I gave my last thoughts about 5 minutes ago. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But my dyslexic comments. Yeah.
Shad, you got anything else from your notes?
Final note. I don't like Benedict Cumberbatch, so I would like to have seen this movie where Doctor Strange was missing and America Chavez just had to do all this on her own against Wanda Maximoff, because Elizabeth Olsen carries this entire movie, in my opinion, on her back. She's in her A game, and I hope that means that we get more Wanda moving forward, because she's just killer in it. So.
Yeah, I do like Benedict Cumberbatch and I've liked him back as far as the Sherlock series on BBC, and so I'm a Benedict Cumberbatch fan, but Benedict Cumberbatch, though I can't say his name, fan. So I do like him as Doctor Strange. I'm not saying there's not anybody who couldn't have done as good of a job or better, but I'm okay with him. But yeah, Elizabeth Olsen was awesome again as Wanda. And it's going to be interesting to see if they actually have killed her off or if she will be making a return.
Yeah, so it'll be the A38 Wanda that traverses the universes, and she comes over and she's part of the Avengers.
Or whenever they get to Secret Wars, whenever the final incursion occurs, since there's not a Wanda in our universe any longer, that Wanda will come over and they can make her a good. A hero again. So
right.
So yeah. All right. Who wants to? Okay, Shad, you wanna rate it first?
Sure. This is my harsh rating for this movie, and I know it's not that harsh. It's I'd give it a 7.5, very fine minus. That's me being as rough as I can be.
I am exactly where you are on this. Fine minus 7.5. It's not one of the best Marvel movies. I've watched it twice. I enjoyed it better the second time. And probably initially I would have been maybe a 6 or a 6.5, but it was better for me the second viewing. So yeah, I'm at a 7.5 as well. So Mike?
Well, I'm at a solid 7.0, the very fine grade. I mean, I think it was above average, clearly above average. Had a couple glitches in it but they're nothing that couldn't be overcome. So I think we're still in the same ballpark, all three of us.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Good deal. That's unusual. Usually there's one of us that's an outlier on just about everything, Right. And usually it's me that's the negative Nelly. So, all right. Well, let's see. Moving ahead, we're going to spend, I don't know, maybe about 15, 20 minutes talking about some of the initial news from San Diego Comic-Con 2022. We had already talked about the things that were our big highlights. Now we're looking at an article from IGN. Let me look at the name of the article here. San Diego Comic-Con 2022, everything announced. This was originally published on July 25th by Ryan Dinsdale. So credit where credit is due. And we are definitely going to skip over a lot of these announcements, like who cares? Well, I'm sure somebody does, about Avatar Lego. Not really talking about the D&D movie. So the first really comic book related item here is Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur first look clip. So we're getting a very animated Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur animated series. Any excitement for that from either of you?
I was originally excited about it just when they announced it, because I was like, oh, that might be a cool thing. But after I've seen it, I think Atchison had said in there for sure was that it was a very Teen Titans-y kind of animation style, which not Teen Titans, New Teen Titans, I guess, because
Right,
Teen
or
Titans.
Teen Titans Go or something.
Yeah,
like
Teen
that.
Titans Go. There we go. That's the one. And that part was like, okay, I'm glad I saw it, and I'll probably pick up with these kind of kid cartoons. I'll watch like the first, not kid. I mean, that's not the right way to word it, but the ones geared towards kids, I'll watch the first episode, and if it has a good enough storyline to pull through, keep an adult's attention span, then I'll continue on with it. Otherwise, I'll just kind of drop it and go, oh, okay, I've seen the first episode.
Yeah, if I have absolutely nothing else to watch, then I might like the other day. I will talk about here in just a minute, but the I Am Groot animated.
Yeah.
They're short. I watched the first two of them, or two of them. I couldn't figure out what order I was actually supposed to watch them in.
Because they kind of standalone, don't they?
Yeah, they all have. Yeah, so I watched a couple of them, so they were fine. All right. A couple of notes here about the DC Gotham Knights game. They show some gameplay trailer. They say that Joker won't be in Gotham Knights. I think actually, from what I had heard, Batman is like supposed to be dead. And they're focusing on Batgirl, which now seems like a huge mistake since they canceled the Batgirl movie.
I picked up on that as well.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm probably not even going to play this game. Either of you planning on playing Gotham Knights?
Dude, I'm still playing Duke Nukem from the 90s, so no.
I'm still trying to get through the first Arkham game. Like I have, I enjoy it, but I don't make it a priority to play that game.
Well, I played through Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, which I think were the first two Arkham games, and then I haven't picked any of them back up. So
gotcha.
All right. Well, I'm skipping down a few things here because I don't really feel the need to talk about Beavis and Butthead or Wheel of Time or King of the Hill.
Can I ask on Wheel of Time if either of you have read that series or any of those books in that series?
Not at all. Is it a book series or a comic series?
It's a book series.
Okay.
It's one of the more well-known.
Yeah, Robert Jordan, right?
Fantasy.
I read. Okay, I think I read one and listened to an abridged version of one on audio. So they were fine, but from the little that I remember of it, they took a lot of liberties with the characters here in the Amazon Prime series. So like the big thing is it's the dragon, right? If I remember correctly, the dragon that can't remember what it is, how it's actually described, and that is in the books. From the get-go, that's Ren, I think is the character's name. Anyway, it's been a long time. If I'm getting for anybody who's a Wheel of Time expert, I apologize. But in the Amazon series, there's a group of 5 individuals, and through the entire first season, they are definitely playing it so that any of them could be the dragon. And again, I'll have to double check if it's actually the dragon. Again, I apologize for butchering the storyline.
The reason I ask, I'm a big fantasy fan, but it's one series. I've only read one book, and it didn't hook me, and I stopped. I mean, I've read several fantasy series, but that's why I was wondering if maybe could this prompt me to go back and try it again.
Yeah, I would say no, and I really thought that the first season fell kind of flat for me. This says it's getting a third season. I don't think the second season is even out yet. So if it is, I didn't get a notice on Amazon Prime that new episodes. And the first season I kind of watched while I was doing other things, so it's not one that I really felt I wanted to give my full attention to.
Gotcha.
Season 2, early 2023.
Oh wow, okay, and they've already greenlit it for a third season. So
confidence, baby.
Okay, comic book news: Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sequel coming in December. Yay or nay? Okay, now I see a nay from Mike.
Sure, I'll give it a shrug.
Yeah. I'm not a Power Rangers fan. I never could get into them, so it's just definitely not for me. DC seemingly has no plans to make more Snyderverse movies.
Huh?
I think this is I think this was tied. Everybody was speculating there was going to be a Man of Steel, Henry Cavill announcement,
right?
And Jim Lee
Fools.
said there are no further plans to expand on that material, which is
Poor Jim Lee. I've met
Yeah.
Jim Lee, and he's a really nice guy. I really hate for
Mhm.
I hated for him that he had to say it out loud to tamp down the spirits of those foolish fanboys and fangirls. I am not surprised, but and I'm not really disappointed either. I think it's been so disjointed and so herky jerky and so reliant on fan pressure that they've released things. I think now I like Zack Snyder. I like his movies. I like the fact if Warner Brothers and their overarching companies would have stayed the hell out of it, I think overall the whole franchise could have been fine. You would have seen a progression. I've said that before. But at this point, no, we can't do that anymore. Even though I hope to see Ben Affleck in Flash or whatever he's going to be in as Batman. I think there's some things that could be vindicated, but as far as the actual Snyder verse, why do we have to put a name in the word verse or the suffix verse? I just get so sick of that. I mean, come on, things aren't that locked down.
But what's weird is if you're calling the Snyderverse, isn't our Aquaman and our Flash and our Wonder Woman part of the Snyderverse? Like,
just I don't even like when the websites promote that. That's partly them.
Well, they're differentiating between the Joss Whedon Justice League movie and the Zack Snyder Justice League movie.
Well, they're both in the same movie.
Okay.
No, they're not, because
they directed the same movie.
Well, but if you watch the two movies, there's a very different take on the characters.
Well,
and the Zack Snyder directed movie is greatly improved over the Joss Whedon.
The exclusively directed Zack Snyder movie.
Yes.
The first movie started out with him, and then he had to bow out because of family tragedy.
Joss Whedon reshot a majority of the scenes.
It became about 80% Whedon.
At least. So there's only just a few things there that were left over from Snyder.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is not the characters, the split. They're not gonna let two different universes exist. They're just gonna say the actual Justice League movie, for better or worse, is the direction we're going, not the Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Or their 10-year plan means there's no universe at all.
They're starting over. Is what I
starting over, and it may not be the connection may not. It won't. Now they say they're openly admitting that they're going to mimic the Marvel
10-year
format.
phase one.
I don't know if that's. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. If they haven't yet been able to, they were trying to do that before. Whether they can pull it off, and their most successful movies have been more director driven and not studio driven. So, either they got the wrong directors, or the studio, didn't get involved soon enough. So, for the earlier films where they just, but it's just, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We should move on. What's next?
All right.
But what they're real quick though, what they're saying is, and what this means is that after Aquaman 2 and presumably The Flash, if that actually makes it out, then they are no longer working. Their plan is not to work with those actors in those character roles moving forward, potentially.
I don't think they've said that, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So
who knows? I think it's Zack Snyder's vision for the holistic.
Okay.
What's the DC universe in the films supposed to be? How's it supposed to be connected?
Well, but they won't say it's Zack Snyder. They will say it's a Kevin Feige approach to the DC universe is what they are now going
So it sounds like they're going to go more with the studio driven, find a Kevin Feige like person
if
to do that.
Warner Brothers can hands off somebody they put in that position.
Right. Yeah,
but I feel like it's been like DC editorial how they did to Tom King, Oh, change this book so now Wally West is the bad guy. Oh, we're not gonna let you finish your Batman run. You can do that in a separate.
It takes the right person. It takes the right person. That's all it is. I mean, and Feige's not like he didn't get cut from whole cloth. I mean, this guy came up through the ranks. He knew he knows his stuff. He didn't just like they didn't magically, create him. They just it developed over time.
And they need to bring in somebody like Mark Waid or Kurt Busiek or somebody like that to oversee.
Lord have mercy. You said the magic words right there with Mark Waid.
Yeah, because Jeff Johns wasn't really the person to put in front of in charge of their entertainment realm, and that's what they.
And I don't know why,
first,
because
right?
Jeff Johns is really good in the comics. He's really got great ideas. I just don't know. I don't know. But when you mention somebody like Mark Waid, that guy's an encyclopedia.
Well, and I think you got to pull them away from their day job, right? Like, because Johns was still writing books throughout it.
Yeah.
It's like he's got too many irons in the fire. Even if he was the right man for the job, he's preoccupied with other things.
Right. Do we want to talk about Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power?
I'm excited.
I am so excited, even though I haven't watched the trailer. I just seeing the image here.
I'm so terrified. I am so scared of what they're going to do with this.
That's the risk
I hope
we
it's going to be
take.
great. Yeah, it's like I want this to be awesome, and I haven't watched the trailers either. But in 2 weeks? 2 weeks, I think, is what it is.
Yeah. I'm just not going to be one of those people that just doesn't watch something because they're afraid it won't meet their expectations.
Oh, well, I'm not either. Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's got some of the richest. I don't know.
Yeah, richest is the good
material.
word. Yeah.
History. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Amazon, $250 million just to start putting this on before they even shot a single clip for this. Yeah.
Is Peter Jackson involved in this at all? Or
after The Hobbit, I hope not.
No, that's what I was going to say. We've already seen the worst adaptation of anything Lord of the Rings in the Hobbit trilogy. So, I mean, I can't imagine anything going any more that direction.
As long as whoever is responsible for the story in this Rings of Power understands that they're not a better writer than J.R.R. Tolkien, then we should be okay. Yeah. If they stay true, and that's where The Hobbit fell apart, it's like, oh, Peter Jackson, I can write stuff for The Hobbit and expand a 1 3-hour movie into 3 3-hour movies, and and you're bored through 75% of it. So Gremlins? Want to talk about Gremlins?
I like the Gremlins. I'm excited for this.
If my wife was on the podcast, she would be excited as well.
Of course, this ruined a lot of people's childhoods whenever they talked about how the female character in it, right? Found her dad pretending to be Santa dead in the chimney, right? So
right.
Yeah.
Oh no. I mean, there's not much known about this except for it's just the origin of Gremlins, in it's animated.
Was it animated?
Yeah, it's if I'm not mistaken, I thought it was.
It is upcoming animated series, but they did get the original actor to come back, so that's good.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm assuming he's going to be a totally different character because this is supposed to take place, I think, hundreds of years or at least well before this character, the main character is alive. It's
maybe he's the not moderator,
narrator. Yeah, that'd be cool. If it gets heated, it'll be the moderator to it, and whatever. Yeah. But not much is known about this. I don't even think we've seen. They released a couple of, I think, like animated stills, and the animation looks cool. To it, I'll watch it for sure. I think, does Amazon have this as well?
I do not know. So don't know. And if you were concerned, the female dwarves in Lord of the Rings will have beards. Okay, moving on.
I did lose a little bit of sleep on
that. Okay, that I Am Groot. Well, those are out now. So if you were interested in those, they're all like 5 or 6 minutes long. I watched a couple of them. So
I would watch that. I mean, that's for anyone with the attention span problems I have is perfect.
Yeah. Does it feel like it's got any weight to the story at all, Scott, or is it just kind of one-off adventures?
It's one-off. You don't, and like I said, I didn't even know what order to watch them in, and it definitely doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am somewhat excited for What If season 2. So they kind of say it's gonna be 8 issue miniseries. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. It's going to be one of them is going to be based off of Marvel 1602. So the last part of the preview takes place in the year 1602, which was Neil Gaiman written.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the 1602 version of characters. So that I'm not going to go through and read through these, but and Chadwick Boseman was posthumously nominated for an Emmy for that series. So for season 1. So yeah, I think that's definitely something to look forward to. Is the second season of What If. There were some down episodes of that, but overall that was really, really good.
Yeah.
Spider-Man freshman year.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I'm looking forward to that. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the one thing that everybody's gonna be excited about is that it's animated, but we are getting Charlie Cox voicing Daredevil, or at least Matt Murdock in that Spider-Man freshman year series. So everybody's, really on the Charlie Cox bandwagon to be back in the MCU, and we got him in the Spider-Man movie. We are theoretically going to get him in She-Hulk, and he's going to get his own series, not too terribly long.
But Tom Holland is not reprising his role as Spider-Man in this, if I remember right.
Well, it's animated, so it's just voice. So it's got a different voice actor.
Yeah,
and it's the same voice actor that did Spider-Man in What If, I think.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So yeah, because it wasn't Tom Holland What If either. So
gotcha.
And I can understand not, if you're, especially here, that's going to take a lot of time. They really should have got him for What If, because most of the time he only had like a half dozen lines. But here, when it's the focus of the entire series, I totally get not wanting to either A, pay Tom Holland that much for his time, or B, Tom Holland not wanting to give up that much of his time because he wants to do other projects.
Right.
He really doesn't want to be, typecast as just Peter Parker Spider-Man for the rest of his life. So,
right.
Though there would be worse things to be typecast as. So.
Yes.
Randall Park is also going to be in the Gremlins as a voice actor. That's cool. All right, X-Men 97. Who wants to talk about X-Men 97?
I'm excited about X-Men 97. Growing up on the X-Men cartoon, when it was out in real time, and so we're looking at fall of 2023 is when we are getting that streaming on Disney Plus, and we're getting it's all of the same characters. It's going to be Rogue, Beast, Gambit, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Storm, Jubilee, Cyclops. It's going to be just picking up kind of where it left off, and why not? It's going to be, I think, a pretty cool thing. It makes me wonder, if they're willing to put the money into X-Men 97, is what universe would they say that X-Men 97 takes place in? And did we see our X-Men 97 Charles Xavier die in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness?
I would say they would probably call that Earth. Was it 92? Because when that
was the original,
but I don't know that. I don't know that. So okay, all right. Why don't we stop there for now?
Put a pin in it.
And then we're going to come back to more San Diego Comic-Con talk in our next episode. But before we wrap up this episode, we definitely want to do a CLZ Shake. So anybody got their phone ready? I'm still opening up my app here.
I'm ready.
Ready? All right, you go.
What is this? Edward Scissorhands. Issue number 8. There is no information on this at all whatsoever. It's part of the Whole Again storyline, which there were only 10, 12 issues of this series, and that was the second story arc on that. I liked the Edward Scissorhands comic series. It was
I felt like that many issues.
Yeah, I felt like a good sequel to they actually felt like an honorable sequel to the movie.
Okay, all right, Mike, you want to go next?
I just had to pull my phone out. Let me get to the main.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and go.
You go ahead. Yeah.
All right, so what do we got here? Oh,
Rom!
Big surprise. We got Rom.
It's a wedding.
Oh, my God. Not Rom again. You need more comics in your collection.
I do. I guess I need to bump up my collection here. So we got Rom issue number 15. I don't know who's getting married in this particular one, but Rom is busting into the wedding and basically shooting the groom because he's actually a Wraith. So, I lost it. But yeah, it's been a long time since I read that book. But yeah, absolutely, yeah, in my collection. So go ahead, Mike.
Let's see. Loading up. Well, I can probably credit Mr. Scott Reed for me having this in my collection.
Okay.
It is Our Army at War, featuring Sergeant Rock, number 285. Release date October of 1975. Of course, as everyone knows, Our Army at War, like our fighting forces or Men at War, or all of those different war anthology books, they were pretty popular from the 50s all the way through to the mid 70s before they started dwindling, kind of like mystery and horror comics. But they were basically one-off stories. There wasn't really a multi-issue storyline for anything. But when you have one of the most prolific artists in the industry, Joe Kubert, doing the art, everything was appealing. I mean, you just looked at the covers and thinking, man, I would just love to have this comic just because of the Kubert cover. So yeah, have no idea what the story was. I bought it. Looks like I bought it back in 2015 for $1.
Well, there you go.
Goodbye. So it wasn't actually from you.
Okay. I did not realize. What, you said I would have charged you more than $1? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just know that there was, for a while I was putting into CLZ where I bought it from, and I bought so many from you. And I thought I'm not going to put all that in there.
I did not realize that Our Army at War changed the title to Sergeant Rock, so that the Sergeant Rock series continued the numbering from Our Army at War until recently. So,
right. It's the same way with like the Losers or Unknown Soldier, or they all, because they were like the headliner characters, they transitioned from Our Fighting Forces or what was the
Weird
War Tales? Nah, I don't know. But they all had that sort of anthology title. It's kind of like the Marvel comics in the 60s. They started out with, So yeah.
So, Shad, we've already hinted at what's coming up on the next episode.
That's
but
right.
You can cement that for us.
Next episode, on episode 139, we will be covering the rest of San Diego Comic-Con 2020, as well as Batman. Oh, 2022. Yeah, what year is it? As well as
we're really behind.
Batman issue 125 and Radiant Black Volume 1.
So, Mike, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, where would they do that at?
Well, it's like if you'd asked me that when email was first the innovative thing, and I said, well, you can write me here at this address, but now I feel that it's the same feeling now because I don't really have a social media presence for the public. I have an email address, and it's m.atchison90@gmail.com. Please email me and just say hello. And tell me if you like or don't like what we're doing.
He's awful lonely over there.
I'm really lonely.
Shad, what about you?
You can find me on Facebook at Shad Schubert. That's SHAAD SCHUBERT. And check out the Can't Get Rights. We've got some shows coming up. And if you're in the area, go to the DuQuoin State Fair towards the end of the month. And on September 5th, on Labor Day, you'll catch the Can't Get Rights. We'll be playing out there.
Excellent. And I'm Scott Reed. You can find me at burgcomics.com, burgcomics.com. And September 3rd, I will be having my own show in Harrisburg, Illinois. So details about that are up on Facebook. You can get some basic details on the website at burgcomics.com. So when we'll be back soon with our next episode.
So welcome to the Multiverse of Comic Book Podcast. I can just picture what a codpast is. So it's some kind of fish that goes past. Better a cod pass than a cod piece, I guess. So. Yeah. I was laughing as I was starting to say that, so I'll take a deep breath.